Hey there, Seattle Kraken hockey fans. Erica Lindsay Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken. Hope you enjoyed the holiday weekend. But unfortunately, I am here to share an episode, which is the Turbo Tuesday episode we never wanted in our inaugural season. We're going to talk about Brandon Tanev. We're going to talk about the Seattle Kraken returning from the holiday break and what's going on with COVID, and a little bit about World Juniors. We got some news there. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked on Kraken.
You are Locked on Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, welcome to another episode of Locked on Kraken. I'm your host, Erica Lindsay Ayala. As always, we want to thank you for making Locked on Kraken your first listen of the day. I hope you enjoyed our 100th episode yesterday featuring the amazing Everett Fitzhugh. And if you missed it, go watch on YouTube or, of course, listen wherever you listen, usually to Locked on Kraken. But if you missed it, don't worry. I actually have an additional clip from that interview that I'm going to play at the top of the year as we get ready for the end of January, early February for Black History Month and the Black Hockey Mobile Museum. I'm going to talk about that. I'll have a few recordings of that, probably that I'll play at some point during the what would have been the Olympic break, but we'll get into all of that. But Everett will make another appearance on Locked on Kraken. As always, thank you for making us your first listen of the day, and kind of related to what Everett and I are going to talk about, but definitely related to Seattle. I am wearing something that I got myself for Christmas, which is this fantastic wool cap. I've never had a wool baseball cap before, and it's from Ebbets Field Flannels. Ebbets Field, big for me as a native New Yorker, but the company is actually in Seattle, Washington. But of course, this is number 42, Jackie Robinson. And, essentially Willie O'Ree was the Jackie Robinson of the NHL. Anyway, I could go on, but we have a lot of things to talk about. It is a Turbo Tuesday. Unfortunately, we have some bad news. It is a season-ending injury, as many had been reporting for Brandon Tanev, an ACL injury to the right knee, and Tanev, as he is known, Turbo, will be out for the season. So a little bit later in this section, you're actually going to hear this segment, you're going to hear from some of the players reacting to the news, including what Tanev was like in the locker room and the essentially energy and passion that now will have to be replicated and essentially replaced in some manner of speaking. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about the return of the Seattle Kraken to practice. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but maybe about a week or so ago when we got the, extended holiday pause, I was like, it doesn't make sense if they're supposed to be reporting back on the 26th. There's games, including the Seattle Kraken. We're supposed to have a game on the 27th. It doesn't make any sense for them to just come back, have less than 24 hours to get everyone back to test, to make sure that no one is in COVID protocol, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, that is exactly what happened. And we're going to hear from Jordan Eberle on Brandon Tanev, but also he's one of the players that had a really tough time getting back. A lot of the conversation around the Seattle Kraken, quite honestly, has been about COVID. They've had two practices on the 26th and yesterday, the 27th. And a lot of the conversation, at least post-practice, was about COVID. Also, a little bit of World Juniors talk. So we are going to end this episode today talking about World Juniors. We're going to talk about Matty, Beniers, and USA Hockey, but I'm just going to cut to the chase. USA Hockey had to forfeit. It wasn't a postponement. It was a proper forfeit from World Juniors in preliminary play because they had two players impacted by COVID. I really wish for so many reasons that I could get through an episode of Locked on Kraken without talking about COVID, but here we are. So first, let's go to the guys reacting to the injury to Brandon Tanev. Then we'll talk a little bit about what the guys did over the holiday break in the next segment, and again, reacting to COVID. And then finally, we'll talk some more about COVID and World Juniors and Matty Beniers and USA Hockey. But coming up first, I mentioned Jordan Eberle. I think it was really, it warmed my little heart what he said about Brandon Tanev. And we'll hear from Yannie Gourde and Dave Hakstol also, specifically talking about Turbo, because it is a Turbo Tuesday. It won't be the last Turbo Tuesday, but again, not the Turbo Tuesday we wanted coming off of the holiday break. Anyway, here are some of Brandon Tanev's teammates and his head coach talking about the impact that he has in the locker room and, of course, on the ice.
I don't think there's a single guy that can replace Tanev. It's really unfortunate, but injuries happen. So we're all going to have to take it a little bit more and do a little bit more and bring your energy level a little bit more, your emotion level a little bit higher every single night, because that guy does it every single night. So everybody's going to have to step in and take a little bit of his role, and everybody's got to carry a little bit more emotional into our games.
All right, thanks, Yannie. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate that. I mean, he's a passionate guy. He's emotional. He brings a lot of emotion to the locker room, a lot of life. It's just such a tough loss. I mean, obviously you see the things that he does on the ice, brings us energy, brings us physicality. He's been scoring a lot of goals this year. It's really hard to lose him. But for me, importantly, I mean, in the locker room, he's a leadership guy. He's got a voice in the room, and he brings a lot of energy and a lot of life to the locker room. So, I mean, that's for sure a tough loss. And you know, I know he's going to get a speedy recovery, and you know, I hope to see him around lots, because his presence is big for the locker room.
First thoughts are, you know, disappointed for Brandon. It's that was, you know, it's difficult news when you hear of that type of an injury, especially at this time of the season. He's an important player for us. He's a huge part of our dressing room and a big part of what we've been doing on the ice. So in terms of you know, what we'll do on the ice, you know, that's. You know, we'll determine that, you know, as we move forward. We obviously have a lot of different challenges to deal with, not just, you know, with losing him for the year. Certainly that's a long-term blow, but you know, we'll you know, that'll be part of, you know, what we deal with as we, you know, decide and sort out what our roster availability is here as we go into the near future. We don't know that right now.
So there you go, folks. Lots of energy, lots of passion on the ice. We knew that about Turbo and how he plays. He might not be a man of many words for the media, but he is a darling in the hearts of fans and obviously his teammates as well. Coming up next, we're going to hear from a handful of other players, including Colin Blackwell, who I think had a really great little anecdote. Unfortunately, also involves COVID, but on what he did when he was feeling a little bit better after recovering from COVID, and it involves another Seattle hockey sports connection, this time on the basketball side of things. But right now, I want to tell you about BetOnline. It has you covered this season, 2021, going into 2022. New odds, new props, or excuse me, all the odds, all the props, all the bets that you need on a brand new interface and a brand new website. But even with all that newness, BetOnline remains your number one spot for sports action this season. So we want you to head to the website right now. Go to betonline.ag. And when you sign up for the first time, you get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. So whether you're looking to bet on the National Hockey League, NBA, NFL, or even your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is the place to go. So you're not going to want to miss all of the new deals available for the 2021 season, all the new offers available for the 2021 season. Remember that BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. So don't wait to take advantage of all of the amazing offers available right now. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're back. Erica Lindsay Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken. As always, thank you for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day. And I mentioned that unfortunately, COVID is kind of the name of the game. We've heard about it literally since the Seattle Kraken hit the ice, right before their inaugural game, right before that road trip. They were having to deal with COVID. Now, here's the thing. We heard from Dave Hakstol about Turbo, but we're going to hear from him in just a little bit, talking about what he's going to do. You've got Ryan Donato and Vince Dunn. They join, and I'm going to show you this graphic that I'm looking at in a minute, but they join Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak, and Carson Soucy on the COVID list. Now, this is something that I saw from an account, NHL News at Puck Reporter NHL, and it's a list as of December 26th at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. There might be an updated one. Let me check, actually. Yeah, they have an updated list here. Now I'm looking at the December 27th list, which of course I forgot. We added Mason Appleton. So it's Appleton, Donato, and Vince Dunn. So basically all of the players that I talked about on Locked On NHL with Gil on Monday, all of those players that I said I was excited to see get more time because they're young and there's so many players in and out of COVID protocol and injury. Yeah, now those guys are on the COVID list. So again, this is NHL News at Puck Report NHL, popping that up for you now, but it's the list of all of the people, 138 players. It's staff, 16 staff, around 25 support staff, and 15 officials. I saw a retired official talking about, hey, we're not talking about how COVID is impacting the officials and what happens when we don't have enough officials to have hockey games. Anyway, so what does this mean for the Seattle Kraken? Well, Dave Hakstol also noted that all of the AHL D-men that he could call up are also in COVID protocol. Here's what he had to say about essentially having to ride out not having enough defensemen in practice, nor having any to call up from the AHL.
Yeah, the uncertainty is certainly is a new hurdle from day to day. A lot of times, with the way our testing protocol works leading up towards practice, there's uncertainty there, but everybody around the league is dealing with it. We're hoping that we'll have Alexiak and Soucy rejoin us tomorrow. Obviously we practiced with 4 defensemen today, which is not an ideal situation as you come off a break and want to get into some systems work, but that's all that we had available. So as I said, it's a puzzle that everybody is dealing with throughout the league. And as players and coaches, it's our job to be well prepared regardless of who is available.
Next, we're going to hear from Colin Blackwell. He definitely talked about his COVID journey. I mentioned there's a little anecdote that he had about playing video games and watching Netflix during COVID. But then he also talks about, this being very real. And he also mentions what the NFL is doing regarding testing and how he thinks it might be something that the NHL might move toward. So here's Colin Blackwell.
Yeah, I unfortunately got hit pretty bad by COVID. I probably had 5 days of really bad symptoms, and then 5 days, pretty mild like everybody else. So I got pretty sick from it. That's probably why you haven't seen me in a little bit. And then right when I got cleared to come back, I think that's number one is stay safe. Just trying to look out for the other guys in the locker room too, and try to wear a mask around. Just try to prevent, the best we can from everything spreading. And I think that's pretty important. I'm just trying to manage it because we just got to figure out how to kind of live with this going through and going around right now. And it's definitely not easy. It's pretty challenging. And, we've had a couple of instances already in the season, and kind of the mentality was just next man up kind of mentality. So obviously with some big players, like you said, Tanny going down, and some other guys, entering the COVID protocol, that just means some other people, hopefully myself, will be able to step up and try to, fill the void. And it's not a matter of kind of replacing other players. It's just kind of playing your role in yourself and hopefully doing your best to kind of help the team win and kind of weather the storm until we get 100% healthy. Yeah, I think everybody kind of experiences it a little bit differently. I think I'm not a scientist, so I'm not one to really speak on some of the science behind some of the things. I think I'll leave that to them. I don't really have too much of a, opinion on the stuff other than the fact that I think people should get vaccinated, and I think it, helps the people around. You're not really thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the other people around you type of thing. And we see how it's kind of gone through our teammates. And I'm glad that some of them, didn't necessarily have the same experiences that I did. I got pretty sick, but at the same time, I know a lot of guys didn't. I don't really have an answer for you from that standpoint. I think, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. It's one of those things where, I'm not an expert on it, and I don't really have too much of an opinion. I think a lot of people around this organization have been doing a good job, and it's still been spreading. So I think that's one of those things where we're trying to figure out an answer for it and then trying to kind of live through it. And I know there's been a lot of talk, the NFL, kind of what they're doing, where asymptomatic players are no longer getting tested and you're kind of sitting out if you're symptomatic. So I think that's probably going to be maybe the blueprint moving forward. And we'll see how it goes. And I'm hoping that a lot of our guys, I hope those people that are in COVID protocol are feeling better. And I don't think it's something to take very lightly.
For those who follow me on social media, I'm not a big fan of not testing. I think there's someone else from the Seattle Kraken that was talking about, it was either Appleton or Geeky, talking about, or maybe actually I think it was either Appleton or Dunn, or I forget who right now, but essentially they were talking about, oh, well, the more you test, the more cases you're going to find. And I'm starting to get the sense that there are people that want us to do less testing as if that's going to be more effective. It's not the testing, folks, that's the problem. Identifying people that are impacted by COVID, whether they're symptomatic or not, that's not the issue. The issue is the widespread. It's a very contagious virus in close proximity, like locker rooms or hockey. And I mentioned Marissa and Jemmy's article about just kind of how the stagnation of air. So you're not circulating fresh air. So anything that's being coughed or spit up or sweated out is just kind of packed in there, Like that's the issue, not testing, but COVID being a very contagious virus. I just want to make that clear. Anyway, but I will add this, like Colin Blackwell, I am not a medical professional. I am not a scientist. I think I know after essentially 2 years how a contagious virus works, but to me, at least, testing is a good thing. Is it a little bit inconvenient? Sure, but so is having a really bad flu or worse. So that's just my 2 cents. But as promised, we're going to end this segment with Colin Blackwell talking about video gaming and a particular Seattle team that he was able to add to his NBA 2K.
Yeah, I didn't touch a weight or workout. I struggled kind of doing my laundry. I was pretty sick, to be quite honest with you. So I didn't do really anything. I watch a lot of Netflix, and then I also I play NBA 2K every now and again. I brought the Supersonics and an expansion draft back to Seattle. So I was kind of busy doing that and just kind of watching some Netflix shows and just trying to stay busy. I slept a lot. So I kind of did a little bit of everything, from playing some video games and watching some Netflix shows.
All right. So we talked about Turbo. We talked about COVID. And now let's talk about Matty Beniers and World Juniors. So I've talked about World Juniors, the women's U18 tournament not going down because COVID. Sweden, canceled the tournament. On its head, or, just kind of generally speaking, canceling a tournament because hockey is highly contagious and the contagious virus and its variants are widespread. Not the worst thing in the world. However, we did not see that happen for World Juniors. World Juniors started with pre-tournament play on Thursday, December 23rd. Our guy, Matty Beniers, was the player of the game in a 4-3 overtime loss to Finland. That was a pre-tournament game. But the United States then played their first prelim game on December 26th, the day after Christmas, and they won that game 3-2. So a good opening game there. You saw he got on the board with an assist. It was Mackie Samoskevich who got the second USA goal of the game, and Beniers got an assist on that. Overall, it was a 3-2 win for the United States over Slovakia. The United States was set to play Switzerland today. However, it was reported that the United States forfeited that game due to COVID protocol, due to players in COVID protocol. This comes from the IIHF account. Breaking: USA Hockey has forfeited their game against Swiss Hockey due to a mandated team quarantine following a positive test result of 2 of its players. Then the article that is linked goes on to say the team's quarantine status will be evaluated later to determine whether it will be able to compete in its next preliminary round game scheduled for December 29th against Sweden. So they have until tomorrow to figure out if the United States will even be able to compete. I have seen it around the social meets, around the Twitterverse, that it's actually goaltenders that have been impacted. I have not been able to corroborate that just yet. I got this news just as I was finalizing my notes, but that's really unfortunate. Of course, people are taking to Twitter and being like, oh, well, COVID ruined the women's game. I thought men couldn't catch COVID and da da da. Okay, I'll be honest. Snarky me that exists in my head and sometimes in group chats with my friends thought the same thing. That being said, we really got to see the bigger picture here. I refer back to what Colin Blackwell said in the first segment. This is very real. We have to take it serious. I don't know that I agree completely with kind of the show must go on mentality. Yes, people are not dying from COVID, but not everyone is vaccinated. There's still potential to die, just like people unfortunately die of the flu. So I don't know. I'm very conflicted, especially conflicted as someone who is still going to Beijing, China, and I will be introducing myself into a situation that I've been avoiding for 2 years. So I'm not judging anyone on how you feel. It's a messy, jacked up situation. Everyone wants hockey for sure, but at what cost? And I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Again, I'm planning to go to Beijing, China and cover the hockey tournaments there. So who am I to say? I'm just saying it's jacked up. I'm just saying there is a lot of opinions, and I think it's okay to have feelings and to be disappointed by things that are canceled. I personally draw the line where we say, let's just stop testing, or, it'll be fine. Like, people die. That's not okay to me. But, I know. I'm sorry. We keep talking about COVID, but here it is. Team USA placed in a quarantine. So not sure what that means for Matty Beniers and USA Hockey. I'll try to keep you updated. As of right now, tomorrow is a Seattle Kraken game day. I don't know. Like, I want to be excited, but I'm also like, is it a Seattle Kraken game day? Philadelphia is supposed to be coming through. Obviously, Dave Hakstol has some history there. Didn't go so well the first time. Not sure who's even going to be on the roster, but you best believe we'll talk about it for tomorrow on Locked On Kraken. Then we'll do a recap of a game if we get one. And later on in the week, I will bring you the second installment of my conversation with the fantastic Ann Kimmel, one of the hosts of Locked On Predators, and we're going to get into sled hockey. If you haven't checked that out and you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing that pointy thing where I think I point over my left shoulder, and you can click there. Also in the show notes if you're watching on YouTube or listening. As always, thank you for making Locked On Kraken your first listen of the day. And now it's time for you to head over to Locked On Bets. We talked about BetOnline.ag. Now you need all the intel and the insight, and your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling have you covered over on Locked On Bets, just like everything on the Locked On Podcast Network. These shows are free resources available to you, and so we hope you have a listen. Until tomorrow, hold fast, stay true, wash your hands, wear a mask, and let's go Kraken!